Rafael Alvarado was a renowned and incredibly affluent entrepreneur, owning a prestigious chain of hotels. This young, exceptionally handsome bachelor, at the age of 35, graced the glossy covers of prominent magazines. Many socialites fantasized about him, vying desperately for his affection. Yet Rafael's mind seemed singularly occupied with his business empire. Rarely did he make appearances at social events, as his primary focus remained on expanding his business ventures. Year after year, his wealth and influence grew, making him an even more coveted figure. Rafael was perfectly content with his circumstances, residing in an expansive apartment on the top floor of a grand penthouse situated in the heart of the city. Here, an elderly maid meticulously maintained his home, handling his laundry, cooking exquisite meals, and attending to the daily needs of this wealthy magnate. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Each evening, upon returning from work, Rafael would settle into his favorite chair by a massive window, savoring a drink while gazing at the twinkling city lights below. He had a secret passion for reading, an indulgence he never disclosed in his interviews. Rafael firmly believed that it was his love for books that shaped his success, as the tales he devoured in his youth inspired him to dream and aspire for greatness. Growing up in a humble family with 2 sisters and a younger brother, Rafael's passion for adventure novels fueled his desire to travel. At the tender age of 14, he embarked on his first journey, hitchhiking with his closest school friend to a neighboring city. They spent the night in a modest hotel on the city's outskirts, and it was then that Rafael realized the enchanting allure of hotels where weary travelers could find solace and rest. This revelation sparked his imagination, and he began to envision his own hotel designs. He dreamed of constructing a hotel nestled within a colossal tree, another carved into a mountainside, and yet another buried underground. His fantasies even extended to space hotels, envisioning luxurious accommodations on Mars. Fueled by his dreams, Rafael persuaded his mother to buy him a sketchbook, where he diligently drew his visionary hotel designs. He cherished this sketchbook, keeping it securely in his desk drawer, and only showing it to his closest friends, who marveled at his creativity. Rafael's big break came when he had the opportunity to present his ideas at a school conference. The teachers and the principal were deeply impressed with his project, encouraging him to pursue a career in design and architecture. Grateful for their support, Rafael began preparing for university, determined to turn his dreams into reality. His family doubted his ability to earn a scholarship, but Rafael's relentless dedication proved them wrong. He often stayed up late, poring over textbooks and honing his skills. While his friends played soccer, Rafael remained steadfast in his studies, knowing that only unwavering perseverance and determination would lead him to success. And indeed, he succeeded. Rafael gained admission to the prestigious architecture university, enrolling in the design faculty. His parents, initially in disbelief, soon brimmed with pride and joy for their son's remarkable achievement. Rafael plunged headfirst into his studies, dedicating himself entirely to his academic pursuits. During this time, he encountered Asira, a stunningly beautiful, tall girl with flowing blonde hair. Her gray eyes captivated him, and Rafael was utterly smitten, seeing her as an angelic presence in his life. With his scholarship funds, Rafael bought her flowers, chocolates, and treated her to nights at the cinema and theater. Asira, coming from a wealthy background and attending the university's paid department, accepted his attentions with a patronizing grace. For Rafael, she was his everything, and he soon lost himself in his infatuation, neglecting his studies in the process. However, to Asira, his affection was merely a fleeting amusement. When she grew weary of the charade, she abruptly ceased responding to his calls and began dating a popular, wealthy, and arrogant student from their faculty, who was the heartthrob of many. Devastated, Rafael's heart shattered into pieces. In his anguish, he swore to prove Asira wrong, vowing to achieve wealth and success, She'll regret the day she underestimated me, he confided to his best friend, a fellow scholarship student. His friend, skeptical yet supportive, nodded, though he doubted the plausibility of Raphael's vow. True to his word, Raphael graduated with honors. His exceptional performance caught the attention of his favorite professor, who recommended him for a prestigious position. Raphael secured a job at one of the country's top construction companies, renowned for its international collaborations. Over the next 2 years, he traveled extensively, gaining invaluable experience, building a network of influential contacts, and refining his expertise. When his contract ended, Raphael took a bold leap and ventured into his own business. The initial phase was fraught with challenges, and many times he teetered on the brink of giving up. Yet the memory of Asira and his promise to prove himself fueled his perseverance. Eventually, Raphael's relentless determination bore fruit, and his enterprise began to flourish. He forged alliances with new business partners, leading to their first ambitious project, a dazzling glass hotel atop a skyscraper in the heart of the city. This success was followed by a series of innovative ventures, including a ship-shaped hotel, an octopus-shaped hotel along the seashore, and a unique hostel housed within an airplane. Each project showcased Raphael's creative vision and unyielding resolve, turning his childhood dreams into spectacular realities. His journey from a heartbroken student to a celebrated entrepreneur was a testament to his resilience and the power of unwavering ambition. Many of these innovative projects sprang from Raphael's cherished sketchbook, filling him with immense pride. This creative vision propelled him into becoming a wealthy businessman, revered by many young beauties who sought his favor, though he remained largely indifferent to their advances. Alvarado was far from complacent. His ambitions extended beyond his current achievements. He aspired to breathe life into even grander ideas and traverse the globe in pursuit of new ventures. One tranquil evening, as Raphael lounged in his favorite chair immersed in a book, his business partner Victor called. They were contemporaries and shared a bond akin to best friends. They often dined together and spent weekends exploring intriguing places. However, Victor's priorities shifted when he began dating Isabella, dedicating most of his free time to her. This development did not perturb Raphael in the slightest. He viewed such changes with a stoic perspective. "Listen, brother, we have an opportunity to elevate our business and make substantial profits," Victor announced, skipping any formalities as usual. He was a man who valued efficiency, diving straight into the crux of the matter. How so? Raphael's interest peaked immediately. For him, business had evolved into an exhilarating game, and he never shied away from an opportunity to advance. "A prominent businessman, Alessandro Razzo, is interested in our hotels," Victor explained. "He wants to create something similar in his own country. Moreover, he's captivated by your creative mind and is eager to collaborate on several unique projects. Having studied his background, I'm certain that if we satisfy his expectations, he will likely pursue further ventures with us. This is a significant opportunity. Brother, a big fish we cannot afford to miss." "Fantastic," Raphael responded enthusiastically. "Have you told him we're on board?" Victor hesitated, a rare pause in his usually straightforward communication. "That's the catch, brother," he said slowly. "There's a complication." "What kind of complication?" Raphael asked, confident that they could tackle any obstacle. "It's rather delicate," Victor began, clearing his throat. "Alessandro Razzo has a fiancée, and I'm genuinely happy for him," Raphael said with a smile, puzzled by the relevance of this information. "The issue is," Victor continued, "his fiancée is Asira." The revelation struck Raphael like a bolt of lightning. Asira, the woman who had once broken his heart, was now entwined with their potential business partner. He felt a whirlwind of emotion, surprise, nostalgia, and a hint of lingering bitterness. However, Raphael's resolve hardened. He saw this not just as a business challenge, but also as a personal one. That complicates things, Raphael admitted, his mind racing. But it also makes this opportunity even more crucial. We need to proceed with caution and professionalism. Victor agreed, recognizing the significance of the situation. Together, they strategized on how to navigate this delicate scenario, blending their business acumen with tact and diplomacy. Raphael's unwavering determination and Victor's sharp insights formed a formidable partnership, ready to face the challenges ahead. And he is very, very jealous, Victor concluded. Raphael was momentarily stunned, not expecting this twist. "What do you mean?" he asked, as his assistant confidentially told me. Victor explained, "Alessandro Razzo has a peculiar tradition for ensuring business success. He insists on regular meetings with his partners, almost every week. These aren't just business meetings, they are social gatherings." "Oh heavens," Raphael groaned. "Where will I find the time?" "Yes," Victor nodded. "And that's why Alessandro is very particular about who attends these dinners. He prefers that his partners bring a significant other, a girlfriend, a fiancée, or even better, a wife." Raphael chuckled at the absurdity. "Well, I know what I need to do. Next week, I'm going to propose to Isabella," Victor confessed sincerely. "But what about you, an incorrigible bachelor?" Raphael felt a sudden pressure. "Do you have anyone in mind?" Victor asked cautiously. "Not yet, but I will," Raphael quickly replied. Business always came first for him, and if he needed a fiancée to secure this deal, he would find one. "Excellent. Then I'll tell Alessandro that you'll come with your beautiful dark-haired, blue-eyed friend." Raphael was taken aback. "Why exactly like that? I think such girls suit you," Victor replied with a laugh. "Maybe he's right," thought Raphael. Remembering Asira, he sighed. "In any case, arrogant blondes definitely don't suit me." The next morning, Raphael wasted no time. He called his assistant. "I need you to find me a fiancée," he said without any preamble. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. "Excuse me, Señor Alvarado?" she asked, bewildered. "Find me a fiancée," Raphael repeated firmly. "This needs to be done by the weekend." He hesitated for a moment, then added, "She should be a beautiful girl with long dark hair and blue eyes, and preferably poor. Just a girl looking for a job who doesn't aspire to be with a famous and wealthy businessman. Additionally, she should be well-mannered, educated, and articulate. That's all." His assistant, though taken aback, understood the urgency and gravity in Raphael's voice. She knew better than to question him further. Raphael hung up the phone, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. He was stepping into uncharted territory, but he knew that his ability to adapt and overcome challenges had always been his strength. This, he told himself, was just another challenge to conquer for the sake of his ambitions. As he pondered over the unusual task, Raphael couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come from the boy with a sketchbook full of dreams. Now, faced with the need to conjure a fiancée out of thin air, he felt both the weight of his past and the promise of his future. This charade might have been absurd, but it was a testament to his unwavering commitment to his business and his relentless drive to succeed. His assistant, meanwhile, embarked on the unusual quest, tapping into her network discreetly. She understood Raphael's criteria and knew she had to act swiftly and efficiently. By the end of the day, she had a list of potential candidates. The next few days were a whirlwind of interviews and evaluations, and by Friday she had found someone who seemed to fit the bill perfectly. When Raphael met the selected candidate, he was struck by her calm demeanor and striking appearance. She was everything he had described and more. As they discussed the peculiar arrangement, he was impressed by her intelligence and poise. Despite the unusual circumstances, Raphael felt a glimmer of hope that this plan might actually work. As they prepared for their first appearance together, Raphael couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. This was a significant step, not just for his business but for his personal growth as well. Whether this arrangement would lead to genuine feelings or remain a strategic alliance, only time would tell. For now, Rafael was ready to face Alessandro Rosso with confidence, accompanied by his new fiancée, prepared to secure the deal that would elevate his business to new heights. The assistant sat in silence, her mind racing with uncertainty. "But where will I ever find such a girl?" she finally inquired, her voice tinged with worry. "Tap into every resource and spark of creativity you have," Rafael responded before abruptly ending the call. Not long after, a message from Victor pinged on his phone. "Alessandro Rosso is anticipating our arrival for dinner at 7 on Saturday evening at Magnolia Restaurant on Central Avenue. Any updates on the fiancé?" Rafael swiftly replied, "Everything is on track. The fiancé situation is being handled." By Friday morning, the assistant called again, this time with a hint of excitement in her voice. "I've identified several promising candidates, Senor Alvarado. Would you like to meet them personally to evaluate who would be the best fit?" she asked. Rafael knew this step was crucial. He needed to select the right woman and ensure she understood her role. "I'll be at the office in an hour. Please arrange for the candidates to be there," he instructed. "Understood," the assistant confirmed. Precisely an hour later, Rafael's heart raced as he ascended in the elevator to his office. Despite his attempts to stay composed, he felt a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. This was not just a simple meeting, it was a critical decision-making moment. As the elevator doors opened on the 12th floor, he steeled himself for the task ahead. Entering the reception area, the assistant informed him that the first candidate, Senorita Torres, was ready. With a nod, Rafael walked into his office, where he was greeted by a young woman with long, dark hair elegantly braided. She wore a sharp gray suit, with a white blouse peeking out from beneath the jacket, paired with a long skirt and black shoes with sensible heels. Her blue eyes met his, and Rafael silently acknowledged that the assistant had done an excellent job in matching his specifications. Determined to assess her conversational skills, Rafael began, "Senorita Torres, it's a pleasure to meet you." "I am Rafael Alvarado." She stood up, and they shook hands, the gesture formal and businesslike. As she blushed deeply, Rafael felt a pang of embarrassment himself. "I'll now provide an overview of the role and then ask you a few questions, if you don't mind," he said, trying to mask his own discomfort. She nodded, and they sat across from each other. Rafael explained the responsibilities she would undertake, observing her reaction closely. At one point, she raised an eyebrow, a fleeting sign of curiosity, before her face resumed its calm and inscrutable demeanor. "Now, if you're willing to assist me for a fair compensation, we can proceed with a brief interview," he continued. She nodded again, prompting Rafael to think she might be shy or reserved. Undeterred, he started with questions about her current job, educational background, and hobbies. Senorita Torres took a moment to collect her thoughts before answering, but once she began, her words flowed in a steady stream, albeit with a noticeable stutter. Rafael's initial hope waned as he listened to her struggle with speech, feeling a mix of frustration and disappointment. Despite her qualifications, the stutter was an obstacle he hadn't anticipated. Rafael suddenly grasped the reason behind Senorita Torres's hesitance to speak. When she finished her stammering explanation, he offered her a polite smile and assured her that he would reach out if she was selected. As she left, Rafael prepared himself to meet the next candidate. This young woman was undeniably attractive, but her icy demeanor quickly made him feel uncomfortable. The third candidate, while also beautiful, was far too tall, making Rafael worry about appearing mismatched beside her. The fourth girl seemed too plain for his tastes, and the fifth struck him as naively silly. Each interview left him more disheartened than the last, and he found himself unable to choose any of the candidates. Feeling profoundly frustrated at the wasted time, he decided to dine at a nearby restaurant to clear his mind. During dinner, Rafael's thoughts were consumed by his urgent need for a bride. He scanned the room, his eyes lingering on each attractive woman, yet the fear of making a fool of himself kept him from approaching any of them. The potential ridicule from the press and the inevitable gossip reaching Alessandro Raso were too daunting to risk. With these dark thoughts swirling in his mind, Raphael finished his tasteless meal and returned home, feeling more defeated than ever. The following morning, Raphael awoke early, plagued by restlessness. He paced back and forth in his living room, anxiety gnawing at him about where to find a suitable bride. Suddenly, his phone chimed with a new message. It was from Victor again. "I hope you've resolved the matter with the girl. Raso is expecting both of us." Raphael, feeling cornered and desperate, decided that if he couldn't find a solution, he would feign illness to avoid the dinner altogether. He took a long, hot shower, dressed meticulously, and headed into the city for breakfast, hoping to clear his mind. He parked his car and walked towards his favorite cafe, known for its delectable French toast and buttery croissants. On the way, he noticed a public library he hadn't visited in years. Realizing he had no new books at home due to the recent chaos, Raphael decided to step inside. It had been ages since he last used a library, having relied on his assistant to order his reading material. But with everything happening, he had neglected to send her a new list, leaving him without books for the weekend, a dire situation for an avid reader like Raphael. Entering the library, Raphael was overwhelmed by a wave of nostalgia. The sight of the heavy wooden doors and the promise of thousands of stories within brought back memories of his childhood. The library, filled with endless adventures and knowledge, seemed like a sanctuary from his current troubles. As he wandered through the aisles, running his fingers along the spines of books, Raphael felt a sense of peace and clarity that had eluded him in recent days. It was as if the familiar smell of old books and the quiet, contemplative atmosphere offered him a brief respite from his worries. Lost in thought, he hoped that within these walls, he might stumble upon a solution to his problem, or at the very least, find solace in the pages of a good book. Raphael spent hours in the library, allowing himself to be absorbed by the vast array of titles and genres. He selected a few books that caught his interest, savoring the anticipation of diving into their stories. With a stack of novels under his arm, he made his way to the checkout desk, feeling a bit lighter and more hopeful. The librarian, a kind elderly woman, smiled warmly at him as she processed his selections. Her gentle demeanor and the simple act of borrowing books reminded Raphael of simpler times when his biggest concern was choosing his next adventure. As he left the library, the weight of his predicament seemed to lift slightly. He knew the issue of finding a bride still loomed over him, but the comfort of a good book offered a temporary escape. Raphael walked back to his car with a renewed sense of determination. He would face the challenges ahead, but for now he would immerse himself in the world of fiction, allowing the stories to provide the solace and inspiration he so desperately needed. Raphael pulled the door open and inhaled the unique scent of books, a nostalgic aroma that brought him immense pleasure. He felt like a child again, standing on the threshold of new and unforgettable adventures. Entering the grand hall, Raphael ascended the wide white staircase and stepped into a room filled with towering bookshelves. He began moving slowly along them, his fingers trailing over the spines, completely forgetting about breakfast and all his other worries. He was so engrossed in the moment that he didn't immediately hear the young girl with round glasses calling out to him. When she realized that the new visitor hadn't heard her, she approached closer and repeated her question. "Are you looking for something specific?" the girl asked. Raphael started and looked at her, momentarily disoriented. The girl had long dark hair, striking blue eyes, and a sweet smile. Her badge read "Na Martinez." Raphael involuntarily looked her up and down. She was elegant and slim, wearing a short pleated skirt, quirky white knee socks, and heavy army boots. The businessman began, completely forgetting why he had entered the library in the first place. The girl smiled patiently, waiting for him to continue. "I was looking for books," Raphael finally managed to say. "Oh, that's wonderful. You've come to the right place. "We have many," the girl joked sweetly. "Do you have any specific preferences?" Raphael struggled to focus on the conversation. His thoughts were consumed by the upcoming dinner with Alessandro Razzo. A wild idea crossed his mind. What if I asked this lovely librarian to be my date for tonight? I wonder how she will react, he thought tensely, feeling a sudden wave of anxiety. He felt himself sweating all over. He couldn't help but wish he were more like Victor. Victor would have immediately used his charm to win the girl over and effortlessly take control of the situation. But Raphael was different. He always found it challenging to meet new people and navigate social interactions. Despite his inner turmoil, Raphael decided to try and salvage the moment. "Actually," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I'm looking for something that can help me escape reality for a bit. Do you have any recommendations?" Na's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Absolutely. We have a fantastic collection of fiction. What genre do you enjoy? Mystery, romance, fantasy?" Raphael felt a bit more at ease with her friendly demeanor. "I enjoy all kinds, but maybe something light and uplifting would be good right now." Na nodded thoughtfully. "I have just the thing." She led him to a section filled with colorful book covers and started pulling out a few titles. "These are some of my favorites. They're engaging and will definitely take your mind off things." As she handed him the books, Raphael couldn't help but admire her kindness and passion for reading. He felt a pang of regret for even considering asking her to dinner under such pretense. She seemed genuinely invested in helping him find the perfect book, and he didn't want to spoil the interaction. "Thank you, Na. These look great," he said sincerely. She smiled brightly. "You're welcome. If you need any more recommendations or just want to chat about books, feel free to ask." Raphael nodded, appreciating her warmth. As he made his way to the checkout desk, he felt a mix of emotions. The books in his hands represented a brief escape, a small comfort in his otherwise chaotic life. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine a simpler world where his biggest concern was choosing the next book to read. As he left the library, he couldn't shake the thought of Na's kind eyes and genuine smile. He knew he needed to focus on the immediate task of finding a bride, but perhaps, he thought, there was still room in his life for moments of genuine human connection, even amidst the turmoil. It turned out that even now, as a wealthy businessman, social interactions were still challenging for Raphael. "I love reading philosophical books," he finally managed to say, hoping to steer the conversation into more comfortable territory. "Wonderful," Na replied with a warm smile. "Let me guide you to the section where Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato are eagerly waiting for you." With these words, she walked gracefully along the shelves, and Raphael found himself struggling to keep up with her brisk pace. How does she walk so fast in those heavy army boots, he wondered, marveling at her agility. Eventually, Na led him to the shelves filled with hefty volumes on philosophy. "Here you go. Choose whatever you like, and I won't disturb you," she said, leaving him to his thoughts. As Na returned to her desk, Raphael couldn't help but admire her slender figure from a distance. He pretended to peruse the books, but his mind was racing, trying to figure out how to present the unusual proposal that had been swirling in his head. Finally, he picked up the first book he saw and approached her. "Oh, Cicero, an excellent choice," Na said, her smile broadening as she looked at the book in his hand. "Are you already registered with us?" Raphael shook his head. "All right, then I'll take a blank form, and I'll need your documents," she said, reaching for a registration form. Raphael put down the book and took his driver's license out of his pocket. However, before handing it over, he looked intently at Na, trying to gather his courage. She raised her eyes, sensing his intense gaze. "Do you need something else?" she asked gently. "A special book that's not on the shelves?" "No, it's not quite that," Raphael admitted, his voice faltering. "Or rather, it's not that at all." He stumbled over his words, feeling his face flush. Then what is it Na asked, furrowing her brow slightly, her curiosity piqued. Raphael took a deep breath. I need your help, but it's not the usual kind. I'd like to invite you to dinner. Na's eyebrows shot up in surprise. But it's not a date, Raphael quickly added, hoping to clarify. Na laughed, a melodic sound that put him slightly at ease. Then what is it? Do you want me to read you poetry? No, Raphael said, shaking his head. It will be a dinner with my business colleagues. Everyone will be there with their girlfriends and fiancés and I. Oh, that's what it is, Na interjected, understanding dawning in her eyes. And you have no one. Exactly, Raphael nodded, feeling a surge of relief that she grasped his predicament so quickly. Na thought for a moment, her expression thoughtful. And when is this dinner, she asked, considering his request. Tonight, Raphael replied, his heart pounding in his chest. He was terrified she might be busy or simply uninterested. Na looked at him, her eyes twinkling with amusement. Tonight? That's quite short notice, she said, but there was no irritation in her voice, just a hint of teasing. I know, and I'm sorry, Raphael said earnestly, but I really need your help. It's very important. Na tilted her head, her smile softening. Well, I suppose I could rearrange my plans, she said slowly, but on one condition. Anything, Raphael replied eagerly. You have to promise me a good story, Na said with a playful glint in her eyes. Something interesting about your life or your work. I love hearing people's stories. Raphael's tension eased into a genuine smile. Deal, he said. I promise I'll make it worth your while. Then it's settled, Na said, extending her hand. I'll be your date for tonight. Raphael shook her hand, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. Thank you, Na. You don't know how much this means to me. As they finalized the details, Raphael couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He had solved one problem, but another loomed navigating the evening with his new, unexpected companion. Still, there was a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this dinner wouldn't be as disastrous as he feared. But Na smiled again. Strangely enough, I am completely free this evening. Raphael felt a surge of relief and unexpected happiness. Great, he smiled, his anxiety momentarily forgotten. He inadvertently looked Na over again, hesitating before speaking. Just do you have it was awkward for him to say it out loud, but Na guessed his concern once more. An evening dress, she asked with a knowing smile. Raphael exhaled and nodded. I think I can handle that, Na replied confidently. If you need to buy something, I'll cover it, Raphael quickly offered, handing her his business card. Just send me the necessary amount in a message, and I'll transfer the money. Na took the business card and glanced at it. Just then, Raphael's phone rang, drawing his attention away. It was Victor calling. Raphael moved towards the bookshelves to answer the call. Well, brother, you didn't reply to my message. Did you manage to find a bride or not? Victor? Everything is fine, Raphael answered quietly, trying not to draw attention. I will be with you in the evening. Why are you whispering? Victor was surprised. I'm in the library, Raphael replied, and without waiting for a response, hung up. When he returned to Na, she had already filled out the form. She handed it to him for his signature, her face now serious and contemplative. So, are we meeting at the restaurant in the evening, or should I pick you up? Raphael asked, trying to read her expression. Oh, that's not necessary, Na replied, her tone more reserved. I'll take a taxi. Write down my number. Raphael nodded and entered the number she dictated into his phone. Then he took the book from the table and said, I will send you the restaurant address and dinner time in a message. Na nodded, her earlier warmth replaced by a distant demeanor. Raphael headed for the exit with a strange feeling that something had changed about her. He couldn't shake the sense that his sudden proposal had brought back some unpleasant memories for her. As Raphael walked to his car, he replayed their conversation in his mind, wondering what had caused the shift in Na's mood. He hoped it was just his imagination, but a nagging doubt lingered. He couldn't help but think about how Victor would have handled the situation with his effortless charm and confidence. Raphael, on the other hand, felt like he was stumbling through a minefield of social interactions. Back in his office, Raphael tried to focus on his work, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the evening ahead. He wondered if Na would really show up, and if she did, how the evening would unfold. He sent her a message with the restaurant's address and the dinner time, then waited for her response. When her reply came, it was short and to the point. Got it. See you there. Raphael sighed, feeling the weight of the evening pressing down on him. He hoped Na's initial warmth would return and that they could make it through the dinner without any awkwardness. As the day progressed, his nerves intensified, and he found himself glancing at the clock every few minutes. By the time evening arrived, Raphael was a bundle of nerves. He dressed carefully, choosing a suit that he hoped projected confidence and ease. He arrived at the Magnolia restaurant early, using the extra time to steady his nerves. The elegant setting and soft lighting helped calm him somewhat, but his heart still pounded with anticipation. At exactly 7, he saw Na step out of a taxi. She looked stunning in a simple yet elegant black dress that highlighted her slim figure. Her long dark hair was styled loosely, and she wore a touch of makeup that accentuated her blue eyes. Raphael's breath caught in his throat as she walked towards him. "Good evening, Raphael," she greeted him with a polite smile. "Good evening, Na." "You look beautiful," Raphael replied, feeling a rush of admiration. "Thank you," she said, her smile warming slightly. As they walked into the restaurant together, Raphael felt a flicker of hope. Despite the rocky start, perhaps the evening could turn out well after all. They were shown to their table, and Raphael introduced Na to Victor and the other guests. To his relief, Na handled the introductions with grace, her earlier reservations seemingly forgotten. Throughout the dinner, Na proved to be an engaging and charming companion. She laughed at the right moments, contributed thoughtfully to the conversation, and even managed to deflect some of the more pointed questions about her relationship with Raphael. As the evening progressed, Raphael felt his initial anxiety melt away. He found himself genuinely enjoying Na's company and admiring her quick wit and intelligence. By the end of the night, Raphael couldn't believe how smoothly everything had gone. As they said their goodbyes, he felt a sense of gratitude towards Na. "Thank you for tonight. You were amazing," he said sincerely. Na smiled, her eyes sparkling. "It was my pleasure, Raphael. I'm glad I could help." As she stepped into a taxi, Raphael watched her leave, feeling a mix of relief and newfound confidence. The evening had been a success, and he had Na to thank for it. He made a mental note to express his gratitude properly and perhaps, if she was willing, get to know her better outside of their business arrangement. But what exactly had changed? Raphael couldn't shake the feeling that the warmth in Na's demeanor had suddenly been replaced by coldness, and her friendly smile had given way to a strict, almost severe expression. He wondered what could have caused this shift. Perhaps she was just preoccupied with her work. Raphael shrugged off the thought. After all, he had accomplished his goal. He had found a suitable bride and could now attend the dinner with Alessandro Rasso without any worries. Why fret over trifles? If Na didn't smile at the end, it didn't necessarily mean he had done something wrong. Reassuring himself with this thought, Raphael decided to focus on the upcoming matters. He finally had breakfast, then called his personal stylist and scheduled a meeting. He wanted to look his absolute best for the dinner. Around noon, he received a message from Na. She had sent him a photo of a stunning evening dress. It was bright red, and Raphael couldn't help but imagine how striking she would look in it. However, when he saw the price tag, he coughed in surprise. The dress was extraordinarily expensive. Despite his wealth, Raphael had always been careful with his money. He preferred buying ordinary things and dining at simple cafes, habits ingrained from his modest upbringing. Knowing the value of money all too well, Raphael hesitated for a moment. But this occasion required him to appear respectable in the eyes of his business associates. He transferred the necessary amount to the account Na had indicated in her message and later paid for equally expensive shoes and a handbag. This girl decided to prepare thoroughly, he thought, with a mix of admiration and amusement. At precisely 7 in the evening, Raphael parked his car at the Magnolia restaurant. He stepped out and glanced at his reflection in the bright window of a nearby store. He was dressed in a light suit, a crisp white shirt with a bow tie, and polished leather shoes. Everything fit him perfectly. Adjusting his expensive watch on his wrist, he took a deep breath and walked towards the entrance. Inside, Victor and his girlfriend Isabella were already waiting at the table. Both looked splendid. Isabella was wearing a green velvet dress with an open neckline, and a pearl necklace adorned her neck. Her reddish-brown hair was styled into an intricate updo, with several wavy strands framing her face. "Hello, friends," Raphael greeted them warmly. "Hello, brother," Victor responded with a grin. "You look great, but why are you alone?" Raphael glanced around, hoping to see Nae entering behind him. "She'll be here soon," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to Na, confirming she was on her way. Moments later, he saw her enter the restaurant. Na looked absolutely stunning in the red evening dress. The color complemented her dark hair and blue eyes perfectly. As she walked towards their table, heads turned, and Raphael felt a surge of pride. She smiled as she approached, the earlier coldness in her demeanor replaced with a composed elegance. "I'm sorry I'm late," Na said softly, as Raphael stood to greet her. "Not at all. You look amazing," he replied, genuinely impressed. Victor and Isabella stood up to introduce themselves, and Raphael could see the approval in their eyes. "This is Na Martinez," he said. "Na, these are my friends Victor and Isabella." "It's a pleasure to meet you," Na said, shaking their hands with a warm smile. As they all sat down, the conversation flowed easily. Na fit in perfectly, her wit and charm impressing both Victor and Isabella. Raphael found himself relaxing, the tension of the past few days melting away. He realized that despite the initial awkwardness, the evening was shaping up to be a success. Throughout the dinner, Raphael couldn't help but steal glances at Na. She handled herself with such grace and poise, effortlessly engaging with everyone at the table. He admired her even more, grateful for her willingness to help him in such a unique situation. When the evening came to an end, Raphael felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. As they stood to leave, he turned to Na. "Thank you so much for tonight. You were incredible." Na smiled, her earlier severity completely gone. "It was my pleasure, Raphael. I'm glad I could help." As she stepped into a taxi, Raphael watched her leave, feeling a mix of relief and newfound confidence. The evening had been a success, and he had Na to thank for it. He made a mental note to express his gratitude properly, and perhaps, if she was willing, get to know her better outside of their business arrangement. As he walked back to his car, Raphael felt hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this experience was the start of something new and positive in his life. "My bride will arrive by taxi any minute," Raphael replied confidently. "And where are Alessandro and his dear lady?" "They're delayed," Victor said with a slight frown. "There's a small traffic jam at the entrance to the city. Rizzo wrote that he'll be here in 3 minutes." Raphael nodded and sat down at the table next to Victor. He pulled out his phone and texted Na. "Are you on your way?" She replied almost immediately. "Yes, I'll be there in 5 minutes." Relieved, Raphael responded, "Great, I'll be waiting at the table," and then slipped his phone back into his pocket. Victor whispered something to Isabella and then turned back to Raphael, his expression more serious. "Listen, brother, in our business dealings, everything has always been clean, right? We haven't broken the law or anything like that?" he asked anxiously. "As far as I know, no. But why are you bringing this up now?" Raphael wondered, eyeing his friend with concern. Victor nervously tapped his fingers on the table. "I heard that Rezo is very picky about such things. He's extremely honest and demands the same from his colleagues and partners. If our company has ever been involved in any dubious dealings, he will immediately refuse to cooperate." Raphael took a moment to think, trying to recall any questionable activities. "No, I've always tried to conduct business as properly as possible, unless there's something I don't know about." Victor nodded, his tension easing slightly. "Then I think everything will go perfectly. Of course, unless your fiancée decides to ditch you," he laughed, trying to lighten the mood, but Raphael wasn't in the mood for jokes. His attention was focused on a couple slowly approaching their table. He recognized the man from photographs. It was Alessandro Razzo, a well-known businessman and their potential business partner. Rezo was a tall, middle-aged man in his 50s, with a smooth bald head that shone under the lights. His stylish checkered suit fit him perfectly, exuding an air of confidence and authority. As Rezo and his companion approached, Raphael stood up to greet them, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. "Good evening, Mr. Rezo," he said, extending his hand. "Good evening," Rezo replied, shaking Raphael's hand firmly. "And you must be Rafael Alvarado. I've heard a lot about you." "All good things, I hope," Raphael replied with a polite smile, trying to mask his anxiety. Rezo's companion, a graceful woman with elegant features, smiled warmly at them. "This is my wife," Eliana, Rezo introduced her. "Pleasure to meet you," Eliana, Raphael said, shaking her hand. "The pleasure is mine," she replied graciously. As they all took their seats, Raphael's phone buzzed again. It was a message from Na. "I'm here." Raphael's heart skipped a beat. He excused himself briefly and went to meet her at the entrance. Na looked stunning in the bright red dress she had chosen, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. The dress hugged her figure perfectly, and she exuded a confident elegance that took Raphael's breath away. "You look incredible," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "Thank you," Na replied, her earlier reserve softened by a warm smile. "Shall we?" They walked back to the table together, and Raphael introduced her to the group. "Mr. Razzo, Mrs. Razzo, this is Na Martinez, my fiancée." "Nice to meet you," Na, Razzo said, shaking her hand. "You look lovely." "Thank you, Mr. Razzo," Na replied, her voice steady and polite. As they all sat down, the conversation flowed more easily than Raphael had anticipated. Na charmed everyone with her wit and intelligence, and Raphael felt a growing sense of pride and relief. Victor and Isabella were also engaged, adding to the lively atmosphere. Throughout the dinner, Raphael noticed how smoothly Na handled herself, effortlessly blending in and contributing meaningfully to the discussion. Her presence seemed to put everyone at ease, and even Rezo appeared impressed by her. By the end of the evening, Raphael felt a wave of gratitude towards Na. As they all stood to leave, he turned to her and said softly, "Thank you for tonight. You were amazing." Na smiled, her eyes twinkling with warmth. "It was my pleasure, Raphael. I'm glad I could help." As they parted ways, Raphael watched her leave with a sense of hope and newfound confidence. The evening had been a success, and he knew he had Na to thank for it. He made a mental note to express his gratitude properly, and if she was willing, get to know her better outside of their business arrangement. As he walked back to his car, Raphael felt a sense of optimism. Maybe this experience was the start of something new and positive in his life. Rezo carried himself with great confidence. Following him was a rather tall young woman with blonde hair and big eyes with long lashes. A blue silk sheath dress accentuated her slim figure, and silver jewelry matched her light gray eyes beautifully. Raphael stared at Rezo's companion, not believing what he saw. He undoubtedly knew her very well. Alessandro's companion was Asira, the same woman who had once broken Raphael's heart at university. Now he understood why Rezo was so jealous of his partner. This woman had always been flighty. When the couple approached the table, the men stood up to greet Alessandro. Asira gave Raphael a languid look and extended her hand for a kiss. He shook it somewhat mockingly, unsure if Asira had recognized him as she put on an indifferent expression. In any case, everything between us is long in the past, Raphael thought. Glad to see you all in this beautiful place, Alessandro Rasso said good-naturedly. My respects, Victor, Isabella, Raphael. Oh, Raphael, why are you alone? Where is your fiancée? Victor said you would come to dinner with a lovely blue-eyed angel. Raphael blushed, realizing that seeing Asira had made him so nervous that he completely forgot about Na. Collecting his thoughts, he was about to open his mouth and say that his partner would be there any minute when suddenly he heard a soft voice. The blue-eyed angel has already arrived. Everyone, including Raphael, looked up. Na was standing at the table. She wore a modest dark blue dress and simple black shoes. Her hair was neatly tied in a bun at the nape of her neck, and she wore long, shiny earrings. Despite the obvious simplicity of her outfit, she looked very good. However, Raphael expected a completely different effect. Why didn't she come in the gorgeous red dress I bought, he thought. Nevertheless, he stood up and put his arm around Na. She exuded a coldness, but Raphael had no time to think about it. He seated Na next to him and smiled at everyone present. This is Na, my fiancée, he said. The girl smiled with dignity. Oh, she is indeed lovely despite her rather restrained style, Alessandro commented. I'm not used to luxury, Na replied. Commendable, commendable, Rezo responded. Raphael smiled awkwardly. He didn't understand why Na acted this way, but he knew that the only thing he could do was join the game, the rules of which no one had explained to him. Victor was watching him intently, and Raphael noticed that he also didn't understand anything and was therefore worried. Alvarado tried to reassure him with a look, but he wasn't sure if it worked. The waiter approached and everyone started ordering. Asira ordered shrimp and champagne. Rezo supported her, and Victor and Isabella also placed their orders. What will you have, Na? Asked Raphael. I think I'll go with plain rice, the girl replied seriously. Plain rice, laughed Alessandro. Raphael, are you not letting your friend eat properly? Raphael blushed, feeling embarrassed. No, I would never. He caught Asira's mocking glance and got completely flustered. Oh, he has nothing to do with it, Na said with regal calm. I just watch my figure and try not to eat much after 6. Alessandro laughed good-naturedly, as if he had heard a funny joke. I like this girl, he said. Victor joined Rezo in laughter, and the others started to smile too. She's still a child, Asira said patronizingly, and Raphael felt irritation. Na said nothing. The waiter brought orders and light snacks. A business conversation started at the table, which the women listened to but did not participate in. Raphael found it increasingly difficult to concentrate. His mind kept drifting back to Na and her unexpected behavior. She had seemed so composed and self-assured earlier, but now she was adopting a strangely austere demeanor. He couldn't help but wonder if she was playing some sort of strategic game that he wasn't privy to. As the evening progressed, the business conversation grew more intense. Rezo discussed potential investments and collaborations. outlining his stringent requirements and expectations. Raphael tried to engage, but his thoughts were continually pulled back to the dynamic at the table. Na's restrained responses and Asira's condescending remarks made it hard for him to focus. At one point, Rezo leaned forward and said, "Raphael, I need to know that all our dealings will be above board. Integrity is paramount to me." Raphael nodded earnestly. "Of course, Mr. Rezo. We have always conducted our business with the utmost integrity. You have my word." Rezo's intense gaze softened slightly. "I appreciate that. Trust is the foundation of any good partnership." The dinner continued with more discussions about business strategies and future plans. Raphael felt a slight easing of tension when Rezo seemed to relax and enjoy the conversation. Na remained quiet but attentive, her demeanor unwaveringly polite and reserved. As the evening drew to a close, Raphael felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The pressure of the evening had been immense, but he believed they had made a positive impression. As they stood up to leave, Rezo turned to Na. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Na. You have a calm and steady presence." "Thank you, Mr. Rezo," Na replied, her voice steady. "It was a pleasure meeting you as well." Raphael and Na said their goodbyes to the group and stepped outside. The cool evening air was a welcome relief. Raphael turned to Na, feeling a wave of gratitude. "Thank you for tonight. You handled everything with such grace." Na smiled faintly. "I'm glad I could help, Raphael." They walked to their respective cars in silence, the weight of the evening still heavy on their minds. Raphael watched as Na drove away, a sense of lingering confusion mixed with admiration. She had played her role perfectly, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her actions than met the eye. As he drove home, Raphael reflected on the evening. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but with allies like Na by his side, he felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The dinner had been a success, and he was one step closer to securing the partnership with Alessandro Rezo. Now, he just needed to understand the enigmatic woman who had helped him get there. When the men had finished discussing work matters, Asira turned her attention to Na. "So when do you and Raphael plan to get married?" she asked with a sly smile. Na shook her head gently. "We haven't set a wedding date yet," she replied calmly. "Oh, but why not?" Asira pressed, her tone dripping with curiosity. "We're not in a hurry," Raphael quickly interjected for Na. "Yes, you've always been quite slow," Asira noted with a mischievous wink at Raphael. Alessandro looked at his companion with surprise. "How do you know that?" he asked, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. "My sister went to university with him," Asira lied smoothly, unsettling Raphael. Asira hasn't changed a bit, he thought, but kept silent. The conversation shifted to other topics, with Victor and Isabella becoming the center of attention. After some time, the waiter began bringing the ordered dishes. The aroma of the food was intoxicating, and the table was soon laden with a variety of delicious-looking dishes. Na's modest plate of plain rice was placed in front of her, and she began to eat slowly, each bite deliberate and measured. Alessandro couldn't hide his affection as he watched her, a fond smile playing on his lips. Raphael observed this and felt a flicker of hope. His friend seemed to have won the favor of their potential partner. Could he say the same about himself? Raphael was uncertain. At times it seemed that Rezo looked at him with suspicion, a sentiment undoubtedly fueled by Asira's ambiguous glances. Na noticed this too, but chose to remain silent, her demeanor remaining composed and inscrutable. Finally, the conversation turned to the future joint project. Victor and Raphael took turns explaining to Rezo their working methods, innovative ideas, and plans for the future. "This all sounds wonderful," remarked Alessandro, nodding thoughtfully. "I like both of you. I'm almost ready to sign a contract with you." Raphael and Victor exchanged triumphant glances, feeling a surge of victory. However, Alessandro continued, his tone becoming serious. My reputation is of utmost importance to me. I will never get involved with a company if I find out it has been involved in anything dirty. Can you guarantee me that my honor will remain intact and my dignity untainted if I start working with you? Victor hastily swallowed his food and nodded emphatically. Absolutely, Mr. Rezo. We can assure you that our business practices are clean and ethical. We have always prioritized integrity in all our dealings. Raphael added, You have my word, Mr. Rezo. We understand the importance of reputation, and we are committed to maintaining the highest standards of honesty and transparency. Alessandro leaned back in his chair, scrutinizing the two men carefully. After a moment, he nodded, seeming satisfied with their assurances. Very well. I believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I trust that you will not disappoint me. As the meal continued, Raphael couldn't shake the feeling of tension. He was acutely aware of Asira's presence and the potential implications of her behavior. Despite her attempts to unsettle him, Raphael focused on the conversation and the opportunity at hand. When the dinner finally came to an end, Rezo stood up, signaling that it was time to leave. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. I'm looking forward to our future collaboration, he said warmly, shaking hands with Victor and Raphael. The pleasure was ours, Mr. Rezo. Raphael replied sincerely. Thank you for this opportunity. Asira and Na exchanged polite farewells, and Raphael noticed the subtle tension between them. He couldn't help but feel grateful for Na's composed demeanor throughout the evening. As they stepped outside, Raphael turned to Na. Thank you for tonight. You handled everything with such grace. I couldn't have done it without you. Na smiled faintly. I'm glad I could help, Raphael. They walked to their respective cars in silence, the weight of the evening still heavy on their minds. Raphael watched as Na drove away, feeling a mix of lingering confusion and admiration. She had played her role perfectly, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her actions than met the eye. As he drove home, Raphael reflected on the evening. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but with allies like Na by his side, he felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The dinner had been a success, and he was one step closer to securing the partnership with Alessandro Rezo. Now he just needed to understand the enigmatic woman who had helped him get there. Of course, we guarantee you that Victor assured Alessandro confidently. Alessandro turned his gaze to Raphael. Yes, we have never allowed ourselves to act dishonestly towards anyone, Raphael confirmed. What little angels, remarked Asira with a sarcastic smile. Alessandro was about to respond, but at that moment, Na rose from her seat. What's wrong, dear? Raphael asked, alarmed by her sudden movement. Na looked at him coldly and hostilely. Are you sure you told Mr. Rezo the truth? She asked harshly. Raphael was confused. What are you talking about? He asked. The table fell silent, tension thick in the air. I'm talking about the fact that you haven't always been honest with everyone you've dealt with, Na said clearly. Raphael looked at her, not believing what was happening. Who did I deceive? He barely managed to say. My father, the girl replied. A few years ago, your company decided to implement a new project and found a suitable location in the city center. But there was one small obstacle in your way, a little house where my family lived, and you decided to simply demolish it. A deadly silence hung over the table. Alessandro Rezo stared intently at Raphael. Is this true, Mr. Alvarado? He asked sternly. Raphael turned pale, and sweat appeared on his forehead. I don't know anything about this, he muttered. That's a lie, exclaimed Na. You are the head of the company. You must know everything that happens in it. but I seriously know nothing. I always personally checked the place where construction was planned, Raphael insisted, his voice shaky. You're lying, Na shouted. Tears welled up in her eyes, and grabbing her purse, she ran away from the table. Raphael wanted to catch up with her, but Victor managed to hold him by the sleeve. Wait, brother, he said. Raphael stopped, looking at Victor, his eyes filled with desperation. I don't know anything about any demolished house, he repeated, looking his friend in the eye. But I do, admitted Victor, lowering his gaze. What Raphael couldn't believe his ears. It happened 4 years ago. We were planning to build a hotel in the center. You took a short leave then because your mother was ill. I handled everything. Yes, there really was one small house. I offered to buy it, but the owner refused, so I bribed the police. And they forced the family to leave the house, giving them 3 days to pack. This man wanted to go to court, but our lawyers convinced him that it was useless to fight a giant company. We transferred a substantial amount to the owner's account to cover the costs of acquiring a new home. And after a while, I completely forgot about this incident. Raphael felt a wave of nausea and anger. How could you keep this from me? We agreed to always act ethically, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Victor looked ashamed. I thought I was doing what was best for the company. It was a mistake, and I deeply regret it. Alessandro's expression hardened as he listened. This is deeply troubling, Mr. Alvarado. I place great importance on integrity, and this revelation casts a dark shadow over your company. Raphael stood there, speechless, trying to process the betrayal and the potential fallout. Mr. Rizzo, I assure you, I had no knowledge of this. I will investigate this matter thoroughly and take appropriate actions, he promised, hoping to salvage the situation. I appreciate your commitment to addressing this, but it will take more than words to regain my trust, Alessandro replied coolly. As the evening came to a strained end, Raphael couldn't help but feel the weight of the consequences bearing down on him. He had to find Na and explain the situation, but more importantly, he needed to set things right within his company and with those affected by their actions. Leaving the restaurant, Raphael felt a mix of determination and sorrow. The path ahead would be challenging, but he knew he had to face it head on. He quickly sent a message to Na, asking to meet and talk. He owed her and her family an explanation and an apology, and he needed to rebuild the trust that had been shattered, both with her and with Alessandro Rizzo. The journey to redemption had just begun, and Raphael was prepared to do whatever it took to make amends and restore his company's integrity. Raphael looked at Victor with wide, horrified eyes. You really did all this? And behind my back? How could you, Victor? I trusted you completely. Without raising his head, Victor replied, Forgive me, Raph. I didn't think it was that serious. Alessandro Rizzo began clapping theatrically. Exquisite. What a dramatic scene. Two business partners unmasking themselves saying this. He stood up and helped Asira to her feet. Dear gentlemen, I thank you for a wonderful dinner and ask to be excused. We must take our leave. With these words, Alessandro and his companion left with dignity. No one thought to stop them. Everything was obvious. Well, I'll be damned, was all Victor could say, and Isabella sympathetically patted his hand. Victor, this is absolutely not funny, Raphael said sternly. I'm not sure I'm ready to continue working with you. With that, he got up and also headed for the exit. As Raphael was getting into his car, he felt someone's gaze on him. Looking up, he saw Asira coyly watching him through the window of a car, leaving the parking lot. In response, Raphael just shook his head. He took out his phone and sent Na a message. I'm sorry, but I really didn't know about your house. Victor just told me about his dishonest act. Na's reply came almost immediately. I don't believe you, she responded. Raphael had no choice but to go home. He couldn't sleep for a long time, and only calmed down when he firmly decided to go to the library the next day to talk to Na. He woke up very early. He immediately got up, brushed his teeth, took a shower, and got dressed. There was still plenty of time before the library opened, so Raphael decided to take a walk. He strolled down the street, got a coffee, and drank it anxiously, barely tasting it. Half an hour before the library opened, he was already standing at the entrance. Finally, he saw Na. She was walking down the street, lost in her thoughts. She was wearing a short green skirt, a white polo shirt, and the same army boots. Her hair was down, adorned with a green bow clip. Na didn't notice Raphael at first, so he had to intercept her to get her attention. Seeing him, the girl was very surprised. "What do you want?" "I thought we said everything to each other yesterday." Raphael tried to take her hand, but Na pulled away. "I just wanted to apologize again. I'm telling the truth. I knew nothing about your house." Na looked at him intently, not saying a word. "It doesn't matter anymore," she finally said, trying to walk past Raphael, but he didn't let her pass. "Wait a minute. I want to make amends." "You already did that yesterday. The money you transferred for the dress, shoes, and bag I gave to my parents," Na said. Raphael nodded, now understanding why Na came in her regular clothes. "But I don't want you to hold a grudge against me," Raphael exclaimed desperately. He himself didn't know why it was so important to him. The deal with Alessandro Rezzo had fallen through, so he no longer needed a bride. However, something inside resisted the thought of letting Na go forever. "I'm not holding a grudge," the girl replied dryly. "Then prove it," Raphael smiled. "Let me take you to dinner." "Another one," Na responded skeptically. Raphael finally managed to take her hand. "Yes, but this time we'll be alone, and it will be a date," he said firmly and resolutely. Na's eyebrows shot up in surprise. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. But why would a wealthy businessman invite an ordinary girl on a date? Raphael leaned close to Na's ear. Maybe because he simply likes her. Na smiled at these words. "All right, I'll give you another chance," she said, and skillfully slipped away, disappearing behind the heavy library door. Raphael went home. After changing, he went to the office, where he reserved a table at a restaurant and ordered roses to be delivered directly to the library. Then there was a knock at the door. "Come in," Raphael shouted. Victor entered the office, still visibly embarrassed. "Raphael, I'm sorry for what I did behind your back. Now I understand that I cast a shadow over our entire company." "Good that you understand. Otherwise, I thought something was wrong with your brain," Raphael grumbled. "I swear I'll never do that again," Victor said. "Please forgive me." "I'll think about it," his business partner replied. He was still angry at his friend. After Victor left, Raphael received a message from an unknown number. "You've become quite something. I'd love to see you." At the bottom, he saw the signature, Asira, so she wanted to see him. Raphael stared at the message, feeling a mixture of irritation and curiosity. He had no desire to rekindle anything with Asira, but her sudden interest was intriguing. He decided to ignore the message for now and focus on making things right with Nay. As evening approached, Raphael prepared for his dinner with Na. He dressed carefully, wanting to make a good impression. When he arrived at the restaurant, he made sure everything was perfect. The roses were already waiting at their table, adding a touch of elegance to the setting. Na arrived right on time, looking lovely in a simple yet elegant dress. Her demeanor was more relaxed than the previous evening, but Raphael could still sense a hint of skepticism. "Thank you for coming," he said, pulling out her chair for her. "Thank you for inviting me," Na replied, sitting down. As they started their meal, Raphael made an effort to keep the conversation light and enjoyable. He shared stories about his childhood and his love for books, hoping to find common ground. Na listened intently, occasionally sharing her own experiences. As the evening progressed, the tension between them eased. Raphael felt a genuine connection growing, and he hoped Na felt the same. When the dessert arrived, he decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. Na, I know I've said this before, but I really am sorry for what happened to your family's house. I promise you, I had no idea. Na looked at him, her expression softening slightly. I believe you, Raphael. It's just hard to forget something like that. I understand, Raphael said sincerely, and I want to make it up to you, not just with words but with actions. I want to help your family in any way I can. Na smiled faintly. That's very kind of you, Raphael. Let's take it one step at a time. As they finished their meal and left the restaurant, Raphael felt a sense of hope. He walked Na to her car, and as she got in, he said, "Can we do this again sometime?" Na nodded. I'd like that. Raphael watched her drive away, feeling lighter than he had in days. He knew there were still challenges ahead, but he was determined to face them head-on. He also knew he had to deal with Asira's unexpected message, but that could wait. For now, he was focused on building something genuine with Na and restoring integrity to his business. The path to redemption was long, but Raphael was ready for the journey. At any other moment, Raphael would have felt triumphant, but remembering Na's gentle blue eyes, he took his phone and typed a reply to Asira. I think Alessandro wouldn't be pleased after sending the message. He blocked Asira's number and focused on his work. At exactly 6, he closed his laptop and went home to change and get ready. By 7, he was at the library door when Na appeared. He didn't recognize her at first. She wore a long golden dress and high heels, and her hair was beautifully curled and pinned up. When did she have time for that, Raphael wondered. You look amazing, he said out loud. Thanks for the roses, Na replied, smiling warmly. She took Raphael by the arm, and they walked to his car. He took her to a small restaurant with books on the shelves, and they had a wonderful quiet evening at a cozy table. The young couple talked about various things, reminiscing about childhood, sharing their hobbies, and discussing favorite stories. It turned out they had a lot in common. By the end of the evening, Raphael was completely enchanted by Na, and the girl finally believed that the man had nothing to do with the matter concerning her home. The young couple began seeing each other almost every day, and after some time they realized they couldn't live without each other. They fell in love, and soon Raphael proposed to Na. A few months later, they got married and went on their honeymoon. Since both loved books, they decided to travel to different countries where famous writers had lived and visit the places they once frequented. The trip was successful and brought the young couple even closer. Now they knew almost everything about each other and loved each other with all their virtues and flaws. After returning from their honeymoon, Na immediately moved into her husband's apartment. In the evenings, they would sit together on the couch and read books. It was a quiet time filled with love and happiness. A wealthy businessman hired a poor woman to play the role of his fiancée, but when she spoke, everything changed. Through a series of unexpected events, they discovered a deeper connection and fell in love, leading to a beautiful journey together. From misunderstandings and hidden truths to love and genuine partnership, their story reminds us that integrity, trust, and open communication are the foundations of any relationship. What have you learned from Raphael and Na's journey? Reflect on one key takeaway from their story and how you plan to apply it in your own life. Share your insights and thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more heartwarming and inspiring stories. Thank you for watching.